Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone, my name is Dewi Rahayu. I'm from PBI 34. So I'm here to complete my text of English for Specific Purposes course in my 4th semester. So in this video, I will explain to you 4 topics. So the first is about English for specific purposes now. The second is the development of English for specific purposes journal. The second is ESP in the future. And the last is ESP in Indonesia. So hopefully my explanation will be clear and useful for you. So keep watching and let's get started. So we will start to talk about English for specific purposes today. So now there is no many movement in ESP that dominating like register analysis, discourse and rhetorical analysis, learning centered method, and so on. Today, many acceptance of mixing the different methodologies and also theories in ESP. Many non-native speakers teaching English in the class, as long as they have ability to teach English based on students' learning style and students' learning preference. Talk about English for specific purposes today. There are several facts that you have to know. So the first is materials production and text analysis are influenced by Swallow's genre. So Swallow's analysis or genre analysis is very important in ESP to analyze something that have an important relation with the English purposes or the other branches of English for specific purposes. So the second fact is about register analysis. So register analysis is an analysis that used to analyze the grammatical components in a text. So with the appearance of computer-based corpora and genre analysis, it's easy to connect the quantitative data from the computer, especially the use of suitableness program to discursive features. So the third fact is about the opinion of Dudley, Evan, and John. So Dudley, Evan, and John say that at the first, English for business was neglected in English teaching, and most of English teaching is filled by English for scientific and technology. But in early 1990s, English business is start to be developed. So many students, many international students in the world take the course of English business, such as in accounting or in banking and etc. So it means that English for academic purposes, especially for the branches, English for business is tending to be developed in this time and then also in the future. The last fact is about the difference that appear in ESP teaching. So for example, English for academic purposes and English for business, in their teaching process, there is a different, so they have to use a different methodology and also different materials to be taught in the classroom for the student with different and specific needs. So this is all about the English for specific purposes today. Let's move to the next topic. So now we will start to talk about the second topic. So English for specific purposes journal development. So since 1980s, there is so many journals of ESP that appeared, and the appearance of English for specific purposes journal becomes the part of the history of ESP. So today we are going to talk about English for specific purposes journal based on 2 things. The first is the origin of the paper, and then the second is based on the topic of the paper. So we will start to talk about the first diagram in ESP journal based on the origin. So here you can see the diagram of ESP origin. So the vertical line is for the person, and then the horizontal line is for the volume. So you can see the bar. The white bar is for USA, and then the gray one is for UK, and then the black one is from other countries outside UK and USA. So from this diagram, we might conclude that the diagram, the bar or the production of ESP journal from other countries is tending to be increased, while the paper or the journal from UK and USA is tending to be decreased. So we are going to talk about it more detail one by one. So we are going to start from journal from other countries. So journal from other countries in their first until fifth volume is reaching 35%, and then at the last from 16 until 20 volume they are reaching 70%. So we can see that there is a big significant increase from other countries, ESP journal from other countries. And then the second is from USA. So from USA, in their first until 10th volume, it is increased until 40%, and then start to be decreased in 11 until 20%. It's just reaching 19%. And then the last is from UK. So UK in their first until fifth volume is reaching 25%, and then start to be decreased in their sixth until last volume, and at the last they are just reaching only 12%. So we might conclude that from all data of the diagram, so there is a significant increase of the ESP journal in other countries, while in UK and USA they are tending to be decreased. So let's move to the second diagram. So now we will start to talk about the second diagram in ESP origin. So this diagram is talk about the origin of ESP journal outside UK and USA. So here is the diagram, or here is the list of ESP journal origin. So you can see the countries. So they are from South of America, China, the rest of Asia, Europe, Africa, and etc. So from this list, we might conclude that the highest production of ESP journal is coming from South of America and also Europe, that reach 29. And then the second is from the rest of Asia, that reach 27. And then the lowest production of ESP journal from the first until the last of the volume is coming from Africa. It is just 15 of the production of the journal. So you can see, or you might conclude all the other data by yourself based on this list of ESP journal origins. So I hope it is clear enough for you. We are going to talk about the last paragraph of ESP journal origin. So this paragraph is based on the gender of the authors. So here you can see the list of the gender. It is male or female. So from this data, we might conclude that the first, most of the production of the journal is coming from the female. And then from the first volume until the last volume, it is reaching 42 until 55%. So the production of the journal from the female is tending to be reached. And then the second is from the male. So from the first volume until the last volume of the journal, we can see that it is tending to be decreased. So from the first volume, it is reached 58% and then the last volume is only reached 45%. So this is all data that we might conclude from this diagram. I think it is extremely easy for us. Now we will start to talk about English for specific purposes journal development based on the topic. So the first diagram is talking about the topic of ESP, which divided into three areas. The first is English for specific purposes in general, English for academic purposes, and English for occupational purposes. So here is the diagram. As you can see, the vertical one is for the person, and then the horizontal one is for the column. The white bar is for English for specific purposes in general. The gray one is for academic purposes, and then the black one is for English for occupational purposes. From this diagram, you might conclude that English for academic purposes is tending to be increased and highly. And then the second is English for occupational purposes is always increased too, but not really significant. And then the last is English for specific purposes in general is tending to be decreased. So we will talk about it more detail. So the first is English for academic purposes. in the last volume, it is 16 until 20 is reaching 80%, and then English for occupational purposes in the last volume reaching 18%, and then English for specific purposes in general only reach 4%. Why this is happening? So there are several reasons that becomes the effect of this term. The first is English for specific purposes in general is not useful or cannot be used to evaluate English that in more significant area. For example, English for specific purposes in general cannot be used to evaluate or to analyze the English in scientific and technology area or English for business area. The second is English for academic purposes is used as a compulsory subject in the university all around the world. And then the third is English for occupational purposes is tending to be increased but not really significant because they are really recently used as a subject in a university, but several paper or several research of English for occupational purposes is always appearing. So this is the explanation of the first diagram in English for specific purposes journal development based on the topic. So let's move to the second diagram. So the second diagram of ESP journal development based on the topic is here. So here is the list of the topic that used in a journal of ESP. So as we can see, the topic is like discourse analysis, teaching training, and also need analysis, method of teaching, and also testing. So from this data, from this list, we might conclude that the most topic is about discourse analysis. The last volume, volume 16 to 20, is reaching 49 journals, and then the lowest topic is about teaching training. Teaching training is just reaching 10 journal in the last of the volume. So you might conclude another data by yourself. I think that's quite easy for us. So this is the short explanation about the second diagram of ESP journal development based on the topic. We move to the third diagram of this topic. So this diagram shows us about the difference between the analysis of the written text and the spoken one. So here is the diagram. As you can see, the black one is for the speech and then the gray one is for the writing. So from this diagram, we might conclude that the analysis of the written text is tending to be increased, and then the the spoken one is tending to be decreased. So let's talk about it more detail. So from the first until the fifth column of the written analyze is reaching 74%, and then the last column is reaching 85%, while the spoken one, the first until the fifth column just reaching 27%, and then the last column is reaching just 12%. So we can see a big significant difference here between the analyze of the written one and then the spoken one. So now let's move to the last diagram of this topic. We move to the last diagram of this topic. So this diagram shows us about the comparison between the journal for the provisional field and for the student. So here is the diagram. So as you can see, there are 3 bars for provisional area for the student, and then also the comparison between them. So from the first until the fifth column for the provisional area is reaching about 88%, while for the student it's just reaching 12%. And then we will start to talk about the comparison between them. So the comparison in the first until the fifth column is not written here, so we will start from the 6th until the 10th column. So from the 6th until the 10th column is reaching 11%, so the comparison is 11%. And then from the column 11 until 15 is reaching 12%, and then 16 until the last column is reaching 8%. So we can see from the bar there is a significant difference between the journal for the provisional area and also the journal for the student. So that's all about this journal, the explanation about this diagram. I think that it's quite easy for us. So let's move to the next topic of this video. So now we are going to talk about the third topic of this video. It is English for specific purposes in the future. The researcher believes that there are several things that will influence or still influencing the development of ESP now and in the future. The first is internationalization. So as we know that English for specific purposes will be always developed in all the countries in the world. And then the second is specialization. As we know that the specialization of English for specific purposes will always be analyzed by the expert. And then the third is about the growth of business. As we know that English for business that use such as in publication, and also English for business that use as a course in a school, in a university, can be a reason of many development of journals, of ESP journals. And the next is genre analysis, corpus analysis, and also systematic functional linguistics that still influence ESP now and in the future. And the last is about the effect of internationalization language. So as you know, the English is an international language, and it is used by many people all around the world to speak with the native speaker or non-native speaker in English. So this language will always be used, and this will be one of the effects for the development of English for specific purpose. So now we are going to the last topic of this video. It is English for specific purposes in Indonesia. As we know that English is used in private sector and also in institutions in Indonesia. English has an important role in communication. And English also has an important role in industrialization in Indonesia and also in other countries. The employee have to get a good proficiency of English both in written and also spoken. But this fact cannot really influence the development of English specific purposes research in Indonesia. There is no enough research of VSP in Indonesia, especially for the students, for the specific students or the group of students. Another fact that appear is English proficiency of the student from tertiary level of Indonesian education is still lack. They cannot communicate effectively using English, so they have many lack in all skills of English. So this fact means that the development of ESP in Indonesia is still low. This is the end of my video today. Hopefully my explanations are clear and will be useful for all of us. So I'm so sorry if there is some mistakes in my video, and thank you very much for watching. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.